A couple of weeks ago, I was teaching to our staff, and I landed on a talk that I think is an important talk. And really, when I share it with the staff, a lot of times when I talk to our staff, it's pretty rough, it's pretty raw, it's sort of like a stream of consciousness. And after I shared it, I just felt like we got great feedback on it, but I also believe there's a whole lot more to it. And today I want to try to give that same talk. Hopefully it's a little bit more organized, but I believe this talk is going to become a foundational talk in our leadership circles here at VU, that we'll use it and we'll apply it in different spaces. And I'm going to try to use the whiteboard. I have really bad handwriting, but I want to try to illustrate a little bit. And so if you've got a notepad, hopefully you've got it open right now. I love what Chris was saying. Just try to stay off the cell phone for a minute. I'm going to take the next probably gonna go 30 minutes, Ollie, wherever you are. I know it says 26, but I'm gonna probably go back to my original time. Sorry for doing all I know the shout outs weren't on PCO, but I got excited and sorry. I wanna talk today from this thought, 4 realms of influence. The 4 realms, and if I spell something wrong, don't judge me, okay? Does anyone know how to write in cursive? Will our kids still have to learn that? They don't, right? I mean, okay, cool. Sorry, I can't. I don't know how to do a Z in cursive. I believe all of us are called to lead, and I just believe this. Like whether or not you stay at VU Church or not, I believe that God's called you to be a leader. If you're a follower of Jesus, He's called you to lead. And today I want to take this topic, and I think this is very, very practical, because I think you should know the realms of leadership that God has given you for this season. Leadership, just a good definition if you're trying to write one down, leadership is influence. Like not super complicated, just really true. Like what does it mean to lead? It means that you influence. Now how many know you can influence someone for good, or you can influence someone for bad? How are you influencing the people around you? What are you doing to the conversations? Where are you leading people? Where are you taking people? Sometimes people will come to church and I can see that they're not living for God, but although they're not living for God, I can still go, yo, they got a leadership calling on their life. Sometimes the best leaders are those with the craziest past. Just because you're not saved doesn't mean that you can't lead. The question is, how are you leading? And every one of us has been given a measure of influence. The question always is, how are we influencing the people around us? Here's a good definition that I want us to try to work with today as we look at the realms of leadership. I want you to write this down. I've shared this before, but it's an important one to me. I say it this way. Leadership is the ability to take people to a place that they never intended or wanted to go, but when they arrive, they thank you. I want you to let that sit for a moment, because that actually is what leaders do. Leaders create a vision. Leaders take people on a journey. Leaders sometimes take people to a place that they were going, I don't even want to do that. No, I'm not called to that. That's not a part of my life. But when they get to that place that you saw, they go, thank you so much for stepping into my life. Thank you for seeing something inside of me that I did not see in me. I never even intended to go here. What I loved about VU High the other night, I was talking to some of our other leaders. I was going, yo, like most of the people up on that stage, talked to them 3 years ago. They were never even like in church. And if they were in church, they definitely weren't thinking about going, I want to be a speaker or a communicator of the gospel. What gives? Leadership is the thing that makes the change. The influence of what could be and what can be. And every one of us, we operate in some realms of leadership. And so I want to show you the 4 realms of influence today. Here we go. Realm number 1. Here comes my awful illustration, but I'm going to try. See that? That's a big circle. Hello. The first realm of leadership is the city. Is it a strong circle? I love you. It's the city. The city is the first realm that we're called to. That you and I, we are called to love and serve the city of Miami. And every one of us, every single day, we interact some way, somehow with the city. The city is like your everyday life. It's your workplace. It's your school that you're attending. It's your neighborhood. It's your local gym. It's your favorite restaurant that you go to. that every one of us, we're actually called to step into the city, the marketplace, and we're called to influence people for Jesus in that space. I love my son, his name's Wyatt Wesley Wilkerson. Wesley is a family name, but really Wesley, he's named after the great preacher of the Methodist Church and the Wesleyan movement. His name was John Wesley. And John Wesley is arguably one of the greatest preachers that ever lived or existed. And one of my favorite quotes from John Wesley, he said it this way. He said, I look up on the world as my parish. I look upon the world as my parish, meaning I'm not just called to a four-wall place, but when I look across the city, I'm called to pastor, to lead, to love, to serve everywhere that I go. I love my city. The whole idea about it is that we don't think we can change the city. We think we're called to serve the city. And if we serve it, we believe God will change it. That Jesus is walking on a seashore and he comes by these guys fishing. Here's some guys that never intended to go with him, maybe never even wanted to go with him, but when he sees them, he says, come follow me and I will make you fishers of men. How many of you know the idea of fishing? Well, that takes preparation. That takes a strategy. That takes work. That takes intentionality. I believe if we will fish, God will catch. But we have to actually open up our eyes that we are called to influence the city. Our everyday life, open up our eyes. When you study the life of Jesus, you will see that he didn't wait for Sunday, back then it was Saturday, to make an impact. In fact, the word city is used 160 times in the New Testament. And it's used with Jesus' ministry and the apostles' ministry in the book of Acts. Look at some of these moments right here. This is John chapter 4. Watch this. Many of the Samaritans from that city, everyone say city, believed in Jesus because of the woman's testimony. He told me everything I ever did. This is the story found in John chapter 4 where Jesus, he happens to go up to a well where a woman is drawing well. This is not a church setting. This is not like a project. This is Jesus opening up his eyes to the realm of influence that he has. And right then and there, he has an encounter with this woman. Her life is radically changed, but not just changed. When she comes out of it, she goes to the entire city and says, come meet this man who told me everything I ever did. I was changed and redeemed the moment I encountered him. It happened in the city. I want us to open up our eyes. I want us to be bigger leaders. We're not just called to have one location and work all week for this one thing. God has empowered us for every space that we step into, but we got to realize we have influence in the city. Luke 7, watch this one. This is great. When one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to have dinner with him, he went to the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. A woman in that who lived a sinful life learned that Jesus was eating at the Pharisee's house. So she came there with an alabaster jar of perfume. What happens right here, go back to Luke 7. This is a story in Luke 7 where this woman, we actually know that she's a prostitute. All she hears about is that Jesus is in the city and he's actually attending like a party. She comes to him and says, yo, she recognizes that she's a sinner. She pours out her perfume on his feet. And right then and there, he saves the woman, he redeems the woman, but he also teaches in that space. It only happened because he was in the city. Look at this next one, Luke 8. This is great. These are all over the place. After this, Jesus traveled from one city and town to another, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of God. Look at this last one right here. Check this one. I like this one. Luke 19:41. As he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it. What's he doing? His heart was broken for a city. The leaders in this room, we have to realize that God has given us a realm of influence in our city. Some of you need to go to bed at night and say, God, give me a bigger vision. God, break my heart for my city. God, let me fall in love with Dade County like never before. Let me fall in love with my coworkers, my students. Let me fall in love with the people I'm doing life with. God, give me an opportunity. Jesus wept over the city. The first realm is the city, but as you keep going, you're going to find out that you got another realm. The next realm, here we go, second circle. You ready for this? Wow. Look at this. You guys are so proud of me. The second realm is what I would call the crowd. The crowd, the crowd, the crowd, the crowd. The crowd really for us is Sunday. This is important, okay? The crowd for us is what happens on Sunday at VU. There's a crowd that's showing up every single week. I love Jesus because everywhere Jesus went, a crowd showed up. It just happened. People come, and it's wild to see like how big the crowd at VU has gotten over the last 3 years. And sometimes it makes me laugh because sometimes people will be like, yo, people say silly stuff like, oh man, this church is too big for me, or I miss it when it was small. And all of that, like, I sort of understand that, but typically that type of a statement is coming from a small mindset, and it's coming from a consumer Christian. Because everywhere Jesus went, crowds would show up. Every time he opened his mouth, he couldn't keep the crowds away. There's a story in Mark chapter 2 where Jesus is in a city and he's preaching, and they go to this house, and the house is so overflowing with people that these guys, they want to get their friend who's paralyzed to Jesus. There's no way, and like the host team's like, sorry, he started preaching, you can't come in. And these people were like, we don't care what the host team says. They go up on the roof, they cut a hole in the roof saying, we got to get this man to Jesus. I don't know about you, but I want us to be a church that people are practically kicking the door down to get to the presence of where Jesus is. The goal is not to be big, but I will say the goal is definitely not to be small. Because everywhere I turn in the New Testament, when Jesus is being proclaimed, when he opens up his mouth, there aren't empty chairs. There's not empty seats. We have to realize that we're called to the crowd. Why do we work so hard all throughout the week? Because we think that the crowd matters. We're working each week because we know that it mattered to Jesus. We want to create an environment that when people walk in, that they go, man, I belong here. You know, the opposite of belonging is trying to fit in. You understand that, right? Oh, the only way I can go to VU is if I put this shirt on, if I walk like that, and if I behave. You don't have to fit in. You belong here. We're going to take you on the journey of influence. We're going to lead you. We think there's some things that need to change. We think God loves you too much to leave you the way that you are. But if you never change, you're always allowed. You're a part of the crowd, and we want to influence you. It's like we work really hard. You guys work really hard to say, we want to create a space that's excellent, but it's also fun. That's kind of a weird contrast, right? Because sometimes you go to something that's really, really structured and excellent, but it's like, man, these people are really boring and rigid. Or you go to people that are really, really fun. You're like, yo, these people have a good time, but nothing makes sense around here. We're in the tension of it. We want to go to a place that's so spiritual that any moment God can show up. He can move, signs and wonders, healings, deliverance. At the same time, we want to teach in a way that if this doesn't help you come Thursday, what are we doing? It's spiritual, but it's also practical. Because we're called to influence the crowd. Watch Jesus. This is just Jesus. I want you to see this. Look at this verse, Matthew 14, verse 14. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had what? We can say it louder than that. He had what? He had compassion on them and healed their sick. Meaning he looked out at the crowd and he loved the crowd. He loved everyone that was showing up on Sunday. He said, this matters. Look at Matthew 15. Jesus called the crowd to him and said, listen and understand. What goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth, that is what defiles them. He's teaching the crowd that real change comes from the inside out. It's not about an outside in change, it's about an inside. I've come to get to your heart. Look at Mark 3:20. Then Jesus entered a house, and again, a crowd gathered, so that he and his disciples were not even able to eat. I look forward to that day. That we can't even, the crowds, just people showing up. We can't even get on to the next thing because there's just so many people that are coming that are hungry for Jesus. Look at Mark 4, I like this one. Again, Jesus began to teach by the lake. The crowd that gathered around him was so large that he got into a boat and sat in it out on the lake. While all the people were along the shore at the water's edge, he taught them many things by parables. the crowd was so big that Jesus had to get onto a boat so that he could begin to teach and preach. We have to recognize that we're called to influence the city, but we're also called to influence the crowd. From the city comes the crowd. But we don't stop there. The third realm is this right here. The third realm is what I would call church. This is important. Once again, this teaching today is not something I would do on a Sunday morning, but this is good for you as team leaders. I hope you know that Sunday is not our church. What? Yeah, I want you to see this. Sunday is our biggest program of our church. It matters. I just explained to you how much it matters. You are a small-minded person if you want to just pick one of these arenas and leave the others out. No, they all work together. Sunday is the crowd. Our church, well, look at Jesus, his church, his community, whatever word you like, his church was not the crowd. Who was his church? His church was his disciples. There was 72, then there was 12. These are the men and women that were what? They were doing the ministry. Disciple comes from the word discipline. The crowd, we don't know who in the crowd's disciplined. They're welcome, they can belong, but we don't know who's disciplined in the crowd. We're not underestimating the power of the crowd. We're just saying we don't know. We don't know if they're all disciples. They could be. We don't know. How then do we define who is a disciple at VU? How do we define who is the church of VU? The church at VU are people that serve. It's people that give. It's people that are a part of a crew. Why? Because these people are the people that are doing the ministry. These are the people that are actually on the path to discipleship, on the path to getting discipline, on the path to building their faith, on the path to helping Jesus fulfill his mission on the earth. Our church are the people that are serving, the people that you oversee, the people that you are leading, the people that you are pastoring, the people that you are loving on. They're not more important per se than the crowd, but we just understand that our church, our community, our third realm is this place. Look at Jesus over and over again. What does he do? Matthew 9:37. Then he said to his disciples, this is not really even a crowd message. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. That's a message for this room. Guys, Miami is ripe for a revival. Like you actually could be a part of something that's never ever happened in this city. You actually, in your lifespan, in your little blip on earth, could be a part of a great harvest, far bigger than me, far bigger than you. But it takes disciples, it takes doing something. It's the church. Look at this other one. Look at this. I want you to see the code language that he's talking with. Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out impure spirits and to heal every disease and sickness. He's not giving this authority to the crowd. This is why it's important that you see this, because our Sunday crowd experience is not going to be a day that we're like necessarily like every Sunday casting out demons on the stage. I want it because I know some people come from different backgrounds, and rather than pit something against it, going, I don't think VU's very spiritual. No. Realize that VU is very, very strategic, and we're operating in our realm of influence. I want you to see this. Look at Matthew. Do we have one more there? Oh, I thought I had one more verse. Every time what you'll see when Jesus is talking to his disciples, he's always taking them a layer deeper. He's always influencing them to go further because it's his church. It's his community. All right, the fourth realm, I want you to see this. I'm going to try to make this as good as I can. Here we go, fourth realm. The fourth realm is your core. I love you guys cheering my drawing. It's a very, very supportive church. I love that. It's the core, or for us, your crew. What you'll see about Jesus is that Jesus, yes, had the 72, then the 12, but then Jesus, he still had a fourth realm of influence, which was his core. He had a small group out of the 12. Over and over again, what you will see is that Jesus had Peter, James, and John. Watch, I want you to see some of these verses. This is great because I just want to show you this with scripture. Luke 8:51, when he arrived at the house of Jairus, he did not let anyone go in with him except Peter, John, and James, and the child's father and mother. Meaning, he's going in to do this great miracle where he's going to bring this girl who's dead, 12 years old, dead. And before he goes into the miracle, he doesn't let the other disciples go in. He only lets Peter, James, and John go into this space. Look at Matthew 17. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led them up on a high mountain by themselves. There he was transfigured before them. One of the most powerful moments in the New Testament where Jesus literally, he's transfigured. He becomes white as light. Moses shows up. Elijah shows up. Both of these men, guess what they represent? Moses represents the law. Elijah represents the prophets. And what these men, Peter, James, and John, get to witness with their own eyes is that Jesus Christ is the fulfillment of both. He's revealing his divinity, but he doesn't let all of them go. He lets Peter, James, and John, he lets his core go. Look at Matthew 26. I want you to see this. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, sit here while I go over there and pray. He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. So as he's going into his greatest moment of anguish, as he's going into his most vulnerable moment, he has the 12 disciples with him. He's got his church with him. He's got those that are a part of the mission, the disciples, but he leaves them back and he goes a little bit further and he takes Peter, James, and John to go and pray with him. We all have these 4 realms. And in your life, you have the realm called the city. It's your everyday life. You have to open up your eyes and realize you're called to influence them. We have the crowd. It's Sunday. It matters. Don't let anybody tell you that what you're doing around here doesn't matter. I know some of you get major criticism from friends, family members. How on earth would you go and spend all day at church? They don't understand what you've been called to. They don't understand what you're a part of. Don't let them for one moment limit your influence to the crowd. We've all got this church. You just saw the numbers. It's like 600 people on a Sunday serving, but I think really the total number is more like 1,200 plus servant leaders now that I would say is VU Church. These people that are serving, attending crews, giving money, helping us advance, doing the ministry. But then we also have this area called a core that we should have a few people that are in our life. So here's the question today. How then do we influence all 4 of these realms? Because I want to just be really practical today. The first way that you influence the city, this is not super deep, it's helpful though. You influence the city through this one word, encouragement. About to help you at your job tomorrow. Well, you're not at work tomorrow, we're at church tomorrow, but encouragement. When you're dealing with the city, the medium in which you use to influence people is encouragement. Not prophecy. I'm gonna get there. You don't show up on Monday speaking in tongues in front of everybody. I speak in tongues, but it's not very effective influence in the bullpen out of your cubicle on Monday. It's encouragement. And what's amazing about encouragement is that everybody in here can be an encourager. Like you don't have to wait for like hands to be laid upon you and for you to have the spiritual gift of encouragement. You can choose today to use encouragement to influence people. Encouragement costs you nothing to give, but it's priceless to receive. Everybody needs encouragement. Come on, let's do this again. With me. Everybody. One more time. You have no idea the doors God would open up for you of influence in this city if you would simply take on this tactic called encouragement. There's 3 things that I always do when I'm out in the city. And when I talk about out in the city, once again, I'm talking about I'm not around VU people. I'm not around hanging out with our VU church, with the VU crowd, with the VU core. In fact, I'm gonna talk here in a moment, like I'm budgeting my time around these 4 realms. So I'm inserting myself into places in the city. And when I'm there, there's always three things that I'm constantly doing. Once again, not very hard, but it takes intentionality. The first thing is I'm learning their names. If you don't know someone's name, by the way, all this stuff applies in every realm, but like if you don't know the people on your team's name, whew. I love the name. You know why we wear name tags? Because we want to make sure that when we're looking at people, we're not just going, hey, you. Because listen to me, everybody loves the sound of their name. Telling you, I'm learning names and I'm saying it as many possible times I can in conversation. If I'm at a dinner with somebody I'm just meeting for the first time, hey, what's your name? My name's Sarah. Oh, hey, Sarah, what's going on? Sarah, good to meet you. Sarah, you know, tell me about your family, Sarah. Sarah, what do you do? You know, like, I'm using her name. Every time I say Sarah, she's, whoa, I'm somebody. It's the second thing I'm doing is I'm asking them questions. Why? Because everyone say everybody loves to talk about themselves. This isn't super deep, but I just feel like we should know this as leaders. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. And you could get a door open for influence if you'd get their name and then you wouldn't stop asking them questions. And then somewhere in that exchange, the third thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a way to place value on them. How can I place value on them? Sarah, so where are you from? Sarah, tell me your story. Sarah, wow. Oh, Sarah, you're a secretary at a doctor's office? Oh my God, I bet you're incredible at that. Value. I bet you do an amazing job. What? Like, it's not flattery, it's encouragement. It's placing value on a human being. Before you know it, you finish that dinner and you're not so talented. You don't have all the gifts in the world, but you took time that night to open up your eyes to the realm of influence called the city. And before you know it, you got their name, you asked them questions, and you placed value on them. They're saying, what's different about you? Every person that you meet, I don't care if it's the server at the restaurant, I don't care if it's someone working at your gym, if you could start to see them with the potential that they have, and if you would realize it's your job to pull that potential out. I want to make sure that my key to influence in the city is encouragement. Now, watch this. The city is going to be led to the crowd. I'm in the city and I'm going, yo, like, you should come on a Sunday. You should come to this thing we do on Sunday. Is it a church? No. Kinda. Crowd that we call a church. But how do I influence the crowd? How do I influence it? You influence the crowd by modeling it. By modeling it. By modeling it. We lead the crowd by example. I want to be nice. You ever notice that crowds are not very intelligent? I'm serious. Here's a fun game next time you're at the beach. Next time you're at the beach, you got your friends with you. You probably need about 8 people for this sociological experiment. One of you, just whoever's the most, confident and most bold in the group, walk over to the seashore and don't use words. Don't use words. I want you to see the power of what you can do. I want you to point out and just have a look of like you're frantic, like. Now you need leadership needs followers. If no one is following, you're not leading, right? So you get 2 or 3 more people from your group to come over and go, I think don't even say shark. I think it's a shark. You just mouth it. 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, you will have the entire beach at that shore going, do you see it? Do you see it? Whoa. Out of the water. Like, ain't nobody seen nothing. Because crowds they're easily influenced. Listen to me. What we project is what they will reflect. We just got done with Easter. Come on, think about this story. You're really, really smart. You're really, really smart. Jesus comes in to Jerusalem. Our team preached it so brilliantly. He comes in. It's Passover season. When he comes in, who's awaiting him? The crowd is there because everywhere Jesus goes, there's always a crowd. What is the crowd doing? They're waving palm branches and they're saying, Hosanna, Hosanna. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Homie, 5 days later, 5 days later, Friday, same crowd. Not waving palm branches, now they're waving fistful of hate. Crucify him, crucify him, crucify him. What took place? Leaders started projecting something different, and the crowd reflected that which was projected. When it comes to you and I, simply influencing the crowd on a Sunday, all it's about is leading by example, modeling it. Not me, not just Nick, not just Mariana, not just Adrian, not Luke, all of us. Not when I'm on the stage. In fact, it matters even more when I'm off the stage, because what I say will not have the same effect with what I do. Like, we cannot say that servant leadership is our identity and then not serve. We can say that forever. If you don't actually show up and do your job, we're not gonna ever influence the crowd. We can say that passion is our pursuit, but if we sit there in church and we don't have any energy, that's just something silly we put up on a board. We can say that we have a heart of worship, but if you're just waiting for the song that you know to lift your hands, to shout unto God, I'm telling you, we will never see the crowd influence. We can say that we're a church that's engaged, but if you come to church every Sunday, you don't bring a notepad, you don't bring a Bible, all we're doing is giving lip service. But when you sit there, you don't look at whoever's next to you, but you start taking notes, you start adding value to the service. Before you know it, somebody in the crowd's like, I guess that's what we do at Boo. Come on, somebody, give them a shout. We're just leading by example with the crowd. The third realm is the church. How do we influence the church? How do we influence the church? It's simple. We simply together, what we do is we coach. We coach. We're coaching. You're called to coach your team. Some of you crew captains and crew coaches, you're called to coach those spaces. What is coaching all about? Coaching is the ability to make people believe that they're called to this, believe that they're a part of this. Coaching's twofold, right? Because it's not just about like, yo, we're gonna celebrate the wins. Coaching's also we gotta evaluate the mistakes. It's this tension that you walk in of celebration, correction, encouragement, but also, we can evaluate, we can get better. We're called to coach. We're not coaching the crowd. We're leading by example. Hey, we're a generous church. You ever notice, we don't give some hard-hitting tithe talk on Sundays. Why? Because it's the crowd. Guess where we talk about hard-hitting giving? Growth track, team leaders, different nights where people are a part of the church, because the church we're called to coach. This fourth space, here we go, this fourth space, the way that you influence them is you have to challenge them. I don't know how to spell. Am I doing okay? Is that double? Is it one L or double? Thank you, Omar. Omar's a dentist, and he is also good at spelling. And another word here is holding accountable. Because how many of you know, today, I can't hold all of you accountable. Because you're not all necessarily per se in my core. It's just, there's too many of us. So I'm coaching. I'm coaching our church. I'm coaching the community of VU. These guys are already coming in. I like it. Aggressive. It's all right. I like it. It's good. But let me tell you who I challenge, who I hold accountable. I hold this guy accountable. What does that mean? It's different from just coaching. It's different from saying, I saw this and evaluated. Accountable is going, yo, bro, like, who are we? Who did you say that you were? What did you tell me last Monday? And now it's right here. It's very, very, we're holding each other accountable. This is what it's more than just it's a challenge. It's pushing. Come on. There's more. I'm pulling something out. We're called to influence these spaces. Now, what I want you to see about this is just where it gets really practical. Every space, every realm, what is your goal? Your goal is to move them into the next realm. Your goal for impact is to move the city to the crowd. And they're at the crowd and leading by example. And my goal with the crowd is to make them a part of our church. And with the church, we're trying to make them a part of a core, someone's team, someone's small group, someone who's holding them accountable. It's the 4 realms of leadership. Well, how does that impact get made? Well, for the city, it's pretty simple. You're going to actually have to go to them. Listen to me. If we're going to be a church that's going to pastor a city, it will require you to leave your comfort zone of friends, your same 7 core people you hang out with every time you have a day off, and get intentional to say, I got to put myself out there and I got to go be in the city because the only way I can catch them is if I go fishing for them. So my impact is I got to go to them. I have to go. I can't. I'm never going to get a hold on the city if I don't ever go. A few weeks ago, it was the Miami Open. It was the tennis. And 2 of the players on the doubles team, they invited me to come to the match, but it was on a Sunday. And there's just no way I could go. But then we discovered there was going to be a little window after the 12:15, before the 5 p.m., that I could go and I could participate for 42 minutes. I want to be honest. Nothing inside of me on Sunday wanted to go anywhere else other than what we're doing. I don't have any more energy to give. I don't have any more excitement. It's taken all of me on a Sunday right now to influence the crowd. But I felt like it was a moment to influence our city. So Gene got me in a car and we drove over. We got in the thing. We sat in some seats. We shook some hands. We said hello. Why? Because everywhere I go, Vu goes with me. And I felt like if the Miami Open was here, Vu should have been there. But you got to go to them. Easter weekend just happened a couple weeks ago. On Easter weekend, I got invited to go to a Jewish friend's Passover meal. They had about 80 people at this meal. Listen to me, for me to leave my house on a Saturday night is like really rare. Add Easter into the mix. But I felt that I was called to go into the city, and I felt like I was called to go and encourage them. So what do I do when I get to the Open? And what do I do when I get to the Passover meal? I start encouraging. At the meal, what am I doing? What's your name? Oh, man. What are you? Asking them questions. Oh, Passover meal? All Jews? I had a million questions. I placed value on them. This is beautiful that you guys would be this intentional to get family and friends. Thank you so much for having me. Guess what I didn't do? I didn't say, a couple weeks ago I preached on the Passover. Jesus is the fulfillment of the Passover. You guys don't really need to be doing all this. Could you imagine? No. I'm influencing. I'm bringing Jesus to the space, and I'm being patient with them, and I'm placing value on them. The city, I'm trying to get the city to go to the crowd. I'm begging this group right here. Everybody in this room, whether you feel it or not, God has given you more. I'm starting with me. God has given us more than we give him credit for. Maybe you don't feel like a very good leader. You have more leadership deposited into you than you ever could imagine. People are starving right now for you to get uncomfortable once a week, for you to budget some time to say, you know what? At the end of this meal, I'm going to make an invite from this server and say, you should come to this thing on Sunday. Because watch, the impact that happens is that you have to go to the city, but the crowd, they come to you. They come to you. And once they come to us there, what we're trying to do, right, is we're trying to move them from the crowd to the church. We're trying to move them from this space here to come and be a part of this. Like, it's impossible for us to know everybody's name at VU. But how many of you know, I think everybody who comes to VU, someone should know their name. And so that's our heart. It's impossible for every one of us just right in here to know the 5,000 people that showed up to church 2 weeks ago. We don't know all their names, but I do believe it's within our power and it's within our leadership capacity to create a space that everybody walks in that door, they can be known and somebody can have a relationship with them. And so quickly what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people from the crowd to the church because I don't want you just to be a spectator. The moment I can make you a participator, that's when you're going to be a part of seeing great results in your life. That's why on your chair there's this little courtyard hack. I was telling Adrian the other day, we don't have a growth track team. I was telling Adrian, we don't have an I Love My City team. I was telling Adrian, we don't have a crew team. I know there's some people that are standing in the gap to get the logistics put together, but everybody in this room is a part of the growth track team. Everybody in this room is a part of the I Love My City team. Everybody in this room is a part of crews. These aren't compartments or departments of our church. This is the lifeblood of who we are. So these courtyard hacks, these aren't for like the growth track team to learn these. These are for every one of us. And what is it? It's just questions to get people from the crowd to the church. How long have you been coming to VU? Oh, I've just been like, I started coming like last Easter, but I haven't been back since this Easter. Oh, cool. If you start coming, like, we love you here. Like, if you start coming, there's a whole lot more for you. Like, I'm so happy you're back, and you're always welcome to come. But I'm just telling you, like, here's my story. My story is I had a story kind of like that, but I started coming regularly, and I got into community. My life has never been the same. How'd you hear about VU? It's just conversation starters. I saw it on Instagram. Oh, cool. What's your name on Instagram? Oh, look, you're creating conversations. You're creating dialogue back and forth. I like this one. Are you in a VU crew? Because I'm trying to push you into participation. But here's the big one. Have you ever gone to the growth track? See, if we're not intentional about our church, and if we're not intentional about the crowd coming on Sunday, people will just pass us by, and all they're looking for is someone who realizes the realm of influence that they have that will fish. And if we'll fish, God's going to catch them. Watch this. The church now, your level of impact is that you go together. Now that we're headed in the same direction, and now that we're going together, now you've just given me an opportunity to coach you. Now that I know that we got the same vision and we're heading the same direction, we go together. We serve together. We do life together. That's what the world needs. They need a community to do life together with. But last, I want you to see this. From church, you're going to create a core. And once you get a core, what you're going to find out is that your core, they take you further. This is the 4 realms of influence. How you influence the city is through encouragement. How you influence the crowd is by leading by example and modeling it. How you influence the church is by coaching it. How you influence the core is by challenging it and holding it accountable. But how you make an impact is you must go to the city. How you make an impact with the crowd is that they're going to come to you out of the invitation from you going to them. But as we get on board with the church, what happens is we start going together. We do life together. But as you're a part of my core, all of a sudden what you'll find is that your core will take you further. Think about this. The transfiguration moment, when Jesus takes 3 of his disciples, Peter, James, and John, it was a moment that as he was transfigured, that he was going to reveal his divinity. He had never gone this far yet before, and he wanted his core to take him there. But in that same breath, as he's in Gethsemane was the moment that he was about to reveal his humanity. And in the same way as he was going to reveal his humanity, he was going to go further than he had ever gone before. Father, if it's at all possible, let this cup pass from me. My flesh is weak, but my spirit is willing. Guess who he wanted with him? He wanted his core there with him because his core was taking him to the furthest place he had ever been. And as you start looking at your life and your leadership, you start looking at your time, you start looking at the way that you live your life, are these realms showing up? Sometimes you have to budget more time to different spaces. Sometimes you look at it and you go, man, I'm spending a whole lot of time with the core, that's awesome. But man, I don't think I'm modeling to the crowd in a big enough way the way that I should. Sometimes you're going, I'm doing everything with the church, we're going together, but I need to make sure that I've got this core around me that's helping me get from point A to point B, that they're actually taking me further on the mission. Sometimes you're just like kind of just attending church and you're modeling it, you're doing the whole thing, but you have forgotten all about the city that you're called to reach. That the city is our church. The city is our parish. That there are people that are lost, broken, and hurting, and Jesus has placed us here for such a time as this, that we would reach them and that we would influence them. This whole church, the reason why I always want us to be a church that's saying thank you is because I just understand that like my gift to preach and to communicate is not enough to fulfill the mission. I've needed men and women who came around me who said, we're on board with the vision that you have, and we're gonna help take you further by extending our gifts, our talents, our prayer, our accountability, our protection of you. It's what's helped me take me further. But in your life, it's the same thing. Some of you have a dream. Some of you have a vision from God, and the reason why you can't see it fulfilled is because you've never developed a core around you to take you to the place that God has called you. 4 realms of influence: city, crowd, church, core. That's what we're called, to influence and to make an impact in. Do you believe that today? Amen.